Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, Custom Carving and Epoxy UK. Hope you're all doing well. Andy here, and I'm hoping to do a Christmas coaster. It's not far away now, so yeah, it's going to be a strange one for me this year because I don't even know if I've got my girls this year or whether they're going to be with their mum. But I wanted to have some Christmas spirit in the house, so I thought, what reminds me of Christmas every year when I go to the supermarkets and they're absolutely filled with poinsettias. I think that's how you pronounce it. So I thought I wanted to try and recreate a set of coasters in a bloom effect, a 3D bloom effect, to resemble at least poinsettias. Now, I didn't want to do a standard 3D bloom like a couple of videos ago with just the alcohol inks. I wanted to try the alcohol inks, but also colouring the bloom paste that I'm going to put down. So I'm going to be trying that with basic alcohol inks until I get a depth of colour in the paste, as well as dropping alcohol inks on the coasters, just to see if that's going to create a cool effect. Never tried it before, but that's what I want to do. So all I've done so far, I've mixed up about 10 ounces of resin. I'm using the T-Expert 1-to-1, which is a medium viscosity resin. And then I've got some of these beads left for the centres, and they look very festive to me. They're red and green, which I probably wouldn't use in many other projects. So I'm going to get everything ready now whilst that's heating up, because I want it to get to about 34 degrees, 34, 35, before I actually pour with it. So I'm just going to get prepared whilst that's heating up, and then we're going to pour and see if we can get sort of Christmas poinsettia style blooms is the plan. But as I say, nothing's ever guaranteed with resin, so I don't know if it's going to work. I think it's a cool idea, and that's what this channel is all about, guys. It's about experimenting with different ideas and seeing if things work or if they don't. And you've probably seen, if you follow the channel, I've had a few shocking experiments, but I've had a few that have actually come out really well. So they're my centre bits, and that's all I've got. So it's going to have to be enough for the centre of these 4 little coasters. I think it should be. They don't need to be too large. Poinsettias don't really have a very large centre, if memory serves correct. And then I've got some different powders ready. So I've got some mica powder. I'm going to put a tiny bit of that in with the ocean white paste. I've also got some pinkish chameleon powder, so I'm going to put a tad of that in. And I'm actually going to put a touch of this gold in as well, just because I think it should just give it a more metallic look on the red for the leaves, which is what I want. And then I'm going to be using the Let's Resin alcohol inks, just a couple of different shades of red. So I've got a standard red there, and I'm just wondering if I should go with a magnolia or a sagilite. I think I'm going to go with the sagilite, which is again quite a deep red. So 2 different tones of red in the alcohol ink, 3 different micas in the bloom mix itself, which is going to have a drop of the Let's Resin Ocean White in as well. And then let's see what happens. I'm hoping that I can try and put a design in for maybe 5 petals as well, which is going to be difficult because I've never done that before. Just to see if I can get something that resembles a poinsettia. I don't want these to be too deep either, because I think I want to put or try and put a gold crackle effect on the back of them as well, with it being Christmas. So that's what this project is. Hopefully it's going to go right, and I'll see you once this gets up to temperature. At the minute we're at 24.9, so it's got another 10 degrees to go, so roughly another 10 minutes and we'll be ready to pour. So do me a favour in the meantime, if you like the content, if you're liking these experiments, I need to know. So just like and subscribe, give it a thumbs up, put something in comments, help support the channel. And I'll see you guys in a couple of minutes. Hey guys, the resin's not quite there yet, but I just wanted to give you an idea of the way my thought process is working here. This is a bloom that I did recently, just with the white bloom and the alcohol inks, and again no blobbing, so it was great, but I got those depth in the petals. What I'm hoping for here is, by slightly colouring the white paste, I'm going to get red petals, but still by using the alcohol ink I'm hoping that I'm still going to get those little outlines that you get on those petals. Whether it'll work or not, I don't know. As I say, this is a brand new experiment to me. I just thought it'd be something fun to try. And to be honest, I need some Christmas coasters. So I just thought it'd be an interesting experiment. So back in 2 minutes, once the resin gets up to temperature, we are at 30 degrees, so probably about another 4 minutes. What do you guys do when you wait for your resin? That's one of the most frustrating things for me, is just waiting for that resin to get up to temperature when you do the blooms. But yeah, I'll see you guys in a second. Hey guys, and I'm back and just checking the temperature now. We're at about 34.2 degrees, which I think is good enough for me. So I'm just starting to think about A, that colour, how I'm going to mix it into the bloom and what colour effect I want. And B, just really how I'm going to put the petals in, because I don't want a standard 8 petals for these, which is normally what I do with a clock face, because I don't think it'd look like a poinsettia if I do that. I think typically maybe a 5 petal bloom. So I'm just thinking I might have to go in like that, then like that, and then separate the middle. But we'll see where we get to when we get to that point. But it's just something I've got to think about, because I've never done it in that sort of way. I'm just looking now. We're at about 35 degrees, so I think we're good to go. So first thing I'm going to do is just pour a tiny bit of this resin in with my glass beads for the centre. Doesn't need to be a lot. I just want to make sure that there's enough in there to cover them and kind of make a paste. So that is that one. They are ready. Then I'm going to fill this pot, because again, I'm doing 4 in 1 here, which again, I don't normally do. I normally do sort of one of my 4-ounce blooms. So I know I'm going to need quite a bit of the bloom paste, I'm going to call it, that we're going to mix up. And I'm hoping that that will give me enough. And then the rest, I can literally pour into the moulds. Try and get it reasonably even, because I want an even coaster. And I'm always looking for about 1/2 centimetre as coverage as a minimum when I'm doing blooms. I just find it works best that way. You can get really good results with thin blooms. But when you're starting to experiment a little bit like I do with different micas and things like that, you just want to give it a little bit more room in case you get that blobbing effect. I'm not using my PVA trick here either. So there's no PVA glue in this resin whatsoever. It is just the resin coming up to temperature. And I'm hoping that I don't mix up this bloom paste too heavy and still avoid blobs. So again, there's no point wasting the resin, so I'm just going around it all. And the plan is, I think I am going to put a back on these, which I don't always do. But again, with these being special sort of Christmas ones, now I've got a little bit spare there, probably about 1 ounce. I'm going to deliberately save that in case I run out of this bloom mix. I don't think I will, but it's good to have some just in case. So that's in there settling. What I'm going to do first of all is, I think, just get rid of the bubbles that are attached to the side, like I always do, and like they always do in this particular mould. Any that are attached to the side, I just completely go around the side with my stick. And then I'm just going to, again, leave that for a second to degas. And then I will go over it with my torch. The resin I'm using as well, it's I would say a medium viscosity resin. It's the 1-to-1 from T-Expert, and I've had some really good results with it in the past. I seem to be getting a few more bubbles than usual, but there we go, just trying to get them out. And then, as I say, I can go over it with my torch. I am going to be dropping alcohol inks as well though, so that's going to get rid of any off the surface, hopefully. It's just the ones underneath on that base layer. I just want to bring them all up to the top, because if this works, I think we're going to get a stunning design. And the last thing I want to spoil it is a big air bubble on the base, which, trust me, happens when you work with resin. So there we go. I think that's pretty much most of the big bubbles out anyway. So I'm just going to go over it all with my torch. And get rid of any that are on the surface. Just remember, guys, when you use a torch as well, do it before you put your alcohol inks on, because the last thing you want is to set your workspace on fire. And I've been close a couple of times. It's a scary moment, trust me. And just remember, when you're mixing sort of 10 ounces of resin or larger volumes like I've just done, you've got to watch it like a hawk, because if you don't and the temperature suddenly goes up faster than you expect, then what's going to happen is you'll get a flash cure. And you'll see again in one of my previous videos, I have had a flash cure. And although it was entertaining for the video's sake, it's quite a strange experience. So there we go. So they're pretty much ready. I'm just going to put the centers in. And again, I haven't got a lot of this glass beads, but I think there'll be enough for a center for each. I'm just trying to get it as central as I possibly can. And I want these to hopefully be a matching set when they're done. So just going to try and keep it as even as I can. It's not always the easiest. And resin has a mind of its own at times. But again, just spreading it out evenly, hopefully. Reasonably close to that center. This one can have a few more. And I should have enough for a few more for each of them. And if they're slightly off, then they're slightly off. I'm not going to be too worried. But just try and not get them everywhere. That's why I use these sort of glass beads as well rather than glitter, because I find that glitter goes absolutely everywhere. Just looking at those, they actually look reasonably even, so I'm not going to add any more. And then because I've added those, just going to pull them all back into the center and make sure that they're all covered. Otherwise it can impact your bloom as well, guys. So just try and make sure that they're all completely covered in resin and reasonably central until you're happy with it. Again, like so. And make sure they're on the base so you haven't got any sticking out that could impact your resin blooming. But there we go. I think I'm just looking at it from the overhead. They look about even. They look reasonably central, so I'm happy with those. Now, I'm just going to go over them again with the torch, get rid of any of the bubbles that I've just introduced, and there will be some. Like so. And then I'm going to go in with my alcohol inks so that has time to settle whilst I'm mixing up my bloom paste. So I've got two different alcohol inks. I've got the Sagilite and I've got the standard red, which I think is a slightly lighter colour. Now, when you use alcohol inks, just make sure that you shake them up before you use them. So one drop in each centre, or as central as I can get it. And then I'm going to go around it with the other red, because poinsettias for me are pretty red. And I'm hoping that this is a slightly different colour, which it is. And again, just trying to get it reasonably even because I do want these coasters to look like they're a set. And just going round, as you can see, to pretty much almost fill all of that transparent space. So it's just 6 drops around the edge. Loving the colours already. And I'm just going to let that settle for a second whilst I mix up my bloom paste, I'm going to call it. So as always, first step, 1 drop of the ocean white, and that's all I'm going to need. Maybe a drop and a half actually, because I'm doing a full cup. So I'm going to go with a drop and a half. 1, and then a little bit of a squiggle. That will do. So 1 drop and a half of my ocean white in there. I need to really clean this bottle as well. Look, every time I use it at the minute, it seems to be the worst one for it actually, the ocean white. But I'm loving the way that those inks are settling already. They almost look like poppies rather than poinsettias at the minute, but there we go. And first step is, I just want to make sure that before I add any micas or anything to this bloom paste, I'm going to call it, that it is of the right consistency. So just mixing it around, giving it a really good stir, and I can still see the stick through that. So I'm happy with that as a colour for the white, but I don't want it to be white. So this is hopefully going to be the interesting part about this experiment, he says. It's also the riskiest part where I think it could all go wrong. So I'm going to add some of this reddish mica, not too much, but enough to hopefully give it a bit of a tint. And again, remember, whatever you're adding is going to add weight to your bloom paste. And that's why you've got to be careful about how much you add. And whenever you're doing this kind of experiments, guys, put your lids back on in case you knock them over, which inevitably you will at some point. And you don't want mica absolutely everywhere. This is that pinkish sort of chameleon powder. So again, a tiny bit of this in there, not too much, because again, I don't want this to overtake any red that I get. And then just to be a little bit strange, I'm going to add a bit of this gold mica to it as well, quite a light gold, and mix that in. And I don't know if this will work, guys, and I think I'm going to probably add some alcohol ink to it as well, but literally just a tiny bit of that gold. And then I'm going to mix that round and see what colour we end up with. Again, it's the first time I've tried mixing sort of this mica paste, so we get hopefully coloured petals. And as I say, this is all an experiment at this point. It could go horribly wrong, but I'm hoping that's actually quite a nice colour. I'm actually quite happy with that as a colour, providing it's not too heavy, providing it doesn't blob. It's redder than I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to get a really pale pink. So I quite like that, because obviously we've still got hopefully the depth from the alcohol inks as well. But what I am going to do again, just to experiment, is add a couple of drops of alcohol ink to it as well, just to darken it up a little bit. So I'm going to do this Sagilite, and I think I'm going to add 3 drops, just to again darken the mix up a little bit. 4 drops ended up going in there. And I don't know if this will affect the blooming process, guys. So again, it's all an experiment. It could go horribly wrong, but I just think it'll be intriguing if this works and we get a way of putting those petals in exactly the colours we want, give us a bit more control than what we have with just alcohol inks on their own. So I really like that. I think that's very close to an actual colour of a poinsettia, which is the bloom design that is inspiring me for this. So just going to pour it into a piping bag. All of it in there. There's no point leaving any in the cup. And I need to make sure that I've got enough to go around 4 blooms today. And again, I'm going to use the spiral design, but I'm going to draw the petals in slightly differently. So you've probably seen me using the clock face method for my standard blooms, which I think works really well for a standard bloom. But for this one, I want the petals to be slightly larger, and hopefully I want there to be 5 petals, well, 5 main sort of petals, if you know what I mean. So this should give us a darker centre, and then on the outside slightly lighter, so I'm liking that, hopefully. As I say, it does all go wrong sometimes. And this is quite a full piping bag, so happy with that. But look at that colour. Very different to what I would normally use in a bloom. It's normally that white. So again, it's going to be interesting just to see if this works. And this is quite a full piping bag now, so I've got to make sure it doesn't squirt out the back. Starting to feel a bit warm as well, which is great. And what you've got to remember with your bloom, you've got to put enough bloom in to allow it to bloom, which is where, again, I think some people go wrong when they're doing blooms. They either put too much in and create blobs, or they put too little in and then just get little lines, I suppose. So I'm going to go about 3 mil, which to me on this bag, if I can get my focus, is just where the resin's actually reaching it. So I'm going to snip it off there. And then what you want to see is that it automatically drips out. I think it's going to drip out quite heavily with this because, as I say, it's quite full. Then I'm just going to go around in a standard spiral design with each. But I want about, I would say 2 or 3 mil. Probably close to the 3. Happy with that. That's dripping out naturally, which is what you want. So I'm going to start with this one. And again, just do a standard spiral. I'm not squeezing the bag at all. Just letting it fall out the bag naturally. And I'm not going to go all the way to the edge on these, because I do want to put a back on them. Christmas happens just once a year, so try and make your coasters as special as you can. There we go. So that's the first one. And again, I'm hoping that I don't get blobbing. But you never know until demold. Again, trying to keep the design reasonably similar. There we go. And I've just dripped a little bit in there, but I can fix that in a second. In fact, let me get ready for this next one, because that's the problem. It does still drip out the bag, guys. So you're probably better off having a tissue or something next to you, ready for when you're done. And then this one. And again, I don't know if adding those micas and the alcoholing is going to actually stop this bloom working. It's part of the experiment, but that's what this channel is all about. It's about doing experiments, having fun, hopefully finding out what works and what doesn't, so that you guys can try the stuff that works and avoid the stuff that doesn't. And then the last one. I'm actually quite impressed at the moment with my piping. It's getting better, he says. And then he's gone a little bit wonky on this one. There we go. So just going to fold up the edge of that now. If you fold up the tip, it just stops it spilling everywhere. And then I can put that in a drip mold afterwards. So that's pretty much my spirals in. Now I'm just going to try and fix this bit where I've dropped some of that bloom in where I don't want it, because that could impact the back if I put one on. There we go. And then did I drip in any of the others? Yes. So I dripped in this one as well. Just going to try and take that out. And now to sort of draw in those petals. I'm liking the way it's looking. So far, so good. So what I'm going to do, I think the base, well, the middle one's that easy. But what I'm going to do is pull in these top. So just go in from here and pull into the center. Wiping my stick between. Then again from over here. Pull it into the center. And then here. And this is all just me thinking about how to do this, guys. So there's probably a simpler way. And that's almost pretty even. And then here, I'm just going to go in and do that. And I quite like that. That looks pretty. Now to remember how I did it for the others. So going in to that center, into the center, into the center, and let me know what you think in comments, guys. Is this going to work, or are we going to get a blobby mess? Oh, I've used the word again. I'll keep saying I'm going to stop using it when I do blooms, because unfortunately every time I've said it so far I have ended up getting blobs. Hopefully today will be the exception. And again, I'm just loving that depth of colour we've got in the centre, which should hopefully be very different to the the outskirts when it starts blooming. If it starts blooming. Again, you can see my resin's starting to thicken up now. So I'm just going to pull that back. I want to keep it reasonably even. And again, guys, the way I've mixed that bloom mixture, there is certainly no guarantees that this is going to bloom at all. No guarantees it's going to work, but it was fun to try. And I've just spotted there's a blob of the bloom mix just in here. I want to try and get it out without destroying the pattern I've just put in, which I think I've done there. And yeah, that's hopefully going to be my flower design. Just going to, at this point, torch off the bubbles. I think the alcohol inks will have settled by now, so I'm not overly concerned, he says. And he's having problems. I think it just needs a refill, to be honest with you, this lighter. But I'm hoping that they pull in, hoping that they create those petals. And I'm hoping that we get a darker shade in the centre and a lighter shade on the outskirts. And it's going to be really interesting just to see what these petals actually look like with that mica mixed in. But yeah, I think I'm reasonably happy with that. Now it's just a case of praying to the resin gods that they bloom and I get a cool effect. And it already looks like these are blooming really well, and this one's just struggling a little bit, and I don't know why. But it was exactly the same paste, piped in exactly the same method, so it should work. Maybe it's just taking a little bit longer than the others. And I've just spotted another blob of this mixture, so again, just going to try and get that out without disturbing the petals, like so. Because as I say, I'm going to try and put a back on these, I think, because I'm hoping that they're going to work. And I quite like that. It looks nice, as long as they all pull in. So these three look like they're pulling into me. This one is being stubborn. But I have got some of this pink mixture saved, so I'm going to do another drip French Bulldog, I think. And I've actually got some clear left as well, so I'm going to pour the clear in first. And then almost, I suppose, create a marbling effect and see what happens. But yeah, it's starting to pull in now, that one. And don't get me wrong, I think no matter how you do your blooms, they're always going to look slightly different because everyone's going to be unique. So I don't know if you can see this here, actually. I'm going to try and get you a better picture on camera, just in case this comes out with a cool effect as well. So the remainder of that paste I've got in the cup, I'm just literally going to put in with the clear. No particular order, just literally blob it around. And again, I've just used that word again. I'm jinxing myself. And just putting some swirls into the clear mixture. And then I'm just going to pipe in the rest of this bloom mixture as well. No particular order, however it ends up coming out is how it's going to come out in this little French Bulldog. But I've done one of these before as a drip mould. I've got about 10 dragons that I've got at the moment, so I think I need to start building a collection of something else rather than just drip dragons. There we go. So that is all of that in there. And again, just so it can hopefully go with this colour theme, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of alcohol ink. So I've got the red, not too much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of the Sagilite in there as well. Hope there's enough in there to fill it, actually, the mould. We will find out. And then all I'm going to do before I pour it is just literally that. And hopefully that's going to create a cool little marbling effect as I pour. Again, first time I've tried this, so if it all goes wrong, don't shoot the messenger. And literally, as you can see, just going to pour it straight into this French Bulldog mould and see how far he fills up. But I'm hoping there might actually be enough here to completely fill him. And then we'll have something else to demold as well as these blooms. Oh, I think we're just going to have enough. So if anybody is looking for a pinkish French Bulldog, let me know. But yeah, I think all of those blooms now are starting to pull in and bloom, which is good. And I actually really like the petals. So I think I've actually piped those and put the shapes in reasonably well. Which, say it's the first time I've done it, is a bit of a surprise. Right, and now just before I go any further with him, I'm just going to give it a bit of a squeeze. Encourage any air bubbles that might be in him up. Him, her, whatever he is. And then I'm just going to scrape out the rest. And I think that is going to be full. What's the weather like where you are in the world as well? We have snow in England, which I'm not a fan of, if I'm being honest. I like it to play with and to have fun. I think it makes everywhere look clean. However, I think there's a lot of people that struggle to drive in the snow. And that's one of the things I don't like about it, is the roads are an absolute nightmare in the UK. I just don't think we're ever prepared for snow. So again, just making sure it's completely full. And I like to slightly dome them. Yes, it means a bit more cleaning up afterwards, but it means you've definitely got a full mould. So there we go, we've got a French Bulldog drip as well, a drip project. So I am going to come back in about 5 hours and I'm going to put a back on these and I'm going to try a slightly different effect again, almost going for that crackle effect look. And I'm going to do it with white and gold because then hopefully we'll get a bit of gold in there and it will almost look like a bit of snow. Whether it will work, I don't know, but I'll see you guys in 4 or 5 hours. Hey guys, and I'm back. And I couldn't decide on what colour scheme I want to go with the backs for these. It's been about 5 hours, so it's set enough, I feel, to put the second layer on. And I just want to get this back layer on, and I'm going to try and get kind of a dragon scale / crackle effect on the back if I can. So I'm going to be putting, again, I've just mixed up around about 4 ounces of resin. So I just want enough for a thin layer initially, just to coat it before I go in with the crackle. These are going to be quite thick coasters, but that's fine. That's what I want. And as I say, these are going to be my special Christmas coasters. So hopefully we're going to get a cool effect. So I think initially that's going to be enough. So I just want to spread it and see how far it spreads. Again, I've gone with a medium viscosity resin, so I've actually used a different resin to the T-Expert. I've actually used my Let's Resin 1-to-1 pump resin because that's just literally in front of me, and I thought it would just be easier to use that. So again, I'm just spreading it around, trying to make sure there is that thin layer going all the way across each coaster so that hopefully I can get some form of crackle effect on this. Is the plan. Now whether it works or not is another matter, and your guess is as good as mine, but I'm liking the way that the fronts look at the moment. I'm just hopeful that it means that I haven't got blobbing on the front and I've got a nice effect, so we will see. So just spreading it around. I think I might need to add a touch more to each one, but I want to leave enough to do my colours and hopefully a bit of a push afterwards as well. And I'm just going transparent for this initial clear layer. No dyes or anything like that, because actually if I get some clear crackles going through it, I actually think it'd look pretty good. So again, just spreading it around so I know I've got that thin layer. And then we're going to go with the colours. And I couldn't decide between sort of a sparkly white for a bit of a snow background, green with it being Christmas, or gold with it being Christmas. So I'm going to try a bit of all three. Best thing to do when you can't make your mind up is just use them all and see what effect it creates. But yeah, I think each one of these probably going to just need a little touch more of the resin, just to make sure I've got that even surface. I just thought it would be a cool effect if I can get it right. And if not, I still don't think it'll look too bad, because hopefully those blooms will have worked on the front and I'll have some nice festive poinsettia style blooms. So as you can see, that is a thin layer now, pretty much covering each. So I'm just going to give it a second or so just to level itself out. Now I've spread it out across the pieces, and I think I just want to add a touch to this one, a little touch to this one, and a little touch, well, to all of them really. It ended up being so there we go, a little tiny bit on there as well. Now I'm going to put some in here for my individual colours. Now I'm not going to need a lot for the colours, just literally enough to hopefully get a circle around each of each colour. And then I'm going to try and leave enough clear at the end to just give a push, and then hopefully get that crackle effect at least around the outside is what I'm hoping for. So out of the 4 ounces of resin, probably got 1.5 left in there now. So again, just going to spread all that resin around that I've just put in there, making sure I've got that even surface coat, hopefully. And as I say, that's just clear, so I'm using clear resin with no colour as my transparent, I suppose, for that crackle effect. And I'm pretty happy with that. I can't see any obvious bubbles or anything either. And I think I've got a thin layer on each. So next step here is just to torch it, get rid of any bubbles that might be there. And again, do me a favour guys, if you are liking the content and you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It makes a huge difference. So again, just getting rid of any of those bubbles with the torch, doing it gently, and I am going to refill this after this project because I think it needs it. So, bubbles gone. Now to mix up the colours, and this should be interesting. So the first one, which one I've got most in actually? I've got them probably the most in this one. I'm just going to add a tiny bit more to this to make sure that I have got the most. There we go. And I'm going to be using this. It says silver, but for me, it's quite a nice pearlescent white. It just shows never trust your labels as such. And again, I'm going to go in reasonably heavy. Still got a bit of pink on from the bloom, but that won't matter if it mixes in ever so slightly. So that is going to be my white. Then the next one, I'm going to go with this very Christmassy green. And again, probably put a little bit less mica in it. So that the white is ultimately the heaviest. I don't know if it makes a difference when you do this or not. And then for the last colour, I'm going to use some of this metallic yellow gold. I'm just looking around for a stick actually. So again, not too much, and I've got to be really careful here not to spill any into the mould. And then the plan is, because I've got that thin layer, I'm just going to pour these colours around the edge and hope that there is enough to just push it out. So that is that gold. Absolutely lovely colour. Really bright as well, so I think it's a good Christmassy colour, as you can see. Then I've got the white. And say it says silver, but for me it's a very metallic white, almost pearlescent. So that is going to be my white, which I think I want the most of. So the plan is I'm going to pour this around the edge and then pour the other colours next to it, I suppose, and then push it out with the clear and see what effect, if any, we get. Because again, nothing's guaranteed with resin. You never know until demold. So again, this is the green. And what I found with the dragon scale effect or the crackle effect so far is all of the colours just tend to blend together, which isn't really what I want in this, but we'll see what happens, because I think it'll be a very strange colour if they just all blend. So very carefully now, just make sure you've mixed all your mica before you pour. And I'm just going to make sure, hopefully, in fact, there's a tiny something in that resin which I want to get out. Can't actually see. It's almost glued itself to the side of the mould. There we go. Whatever that was, it has now gone. So I'm going to leave that one till the end now because I've slightly disturbed that surface layer. Just giving it a quick torch as well so it can level itself back out whilst I'm doing the other three. So again, here we go. Pouring around those edges. And I'm not the best at pouring, guys, but I just want a thin layer going around the edge of each. I'm just going to move this cup out of my way as well because I know I'm going to knock it off. So that's my white in that one. Same for this one. Again, I'm just conscious of how much I've got of each colour, so they are going to be slightly different. Now for this one. And just literally going around those edges. And then hopefully I've got enough for this one. Close to the edge as I can get it. I'm not too fussed if I don't get it right next to the edge though, because at the end of the day, all of these are going to be pushed out anyway. Hopefully with that clear layer. So again, just getting it all in. There's no point saving any. And again, if I get any kind of effect from this, I'll be happy. So next I'm going to go in with the green. Now I don't want a lot of green. Just little flashes of it, I suppose, coming through if it works. So I'm going to try and go really thin with the green. And just enough to give it a bit of a tinge. So that's my green. And again, I don't know if this is going to work at all, but I just thought it would be interesting to try something different for the backing of these coasters. And let me know in comments, guys, do you think I'm going to get any cool effects, or do you think it's just going to look a mess? And am I trying to mix too much into one project, which is very possible. So that is my green. And then finally I'm going to go in with the gold. Just give it another stir around before you pour. And gold is really, really powerful. So again, I'm going to try and keep it quite thin if I can. And just get it as close as I can to the edge again. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And still got a tiny bit left in the cup, so I might as well use it and just go around it again. And it should hopefully give us an interesting effect. But as we all know with resin, it kind of does what it wants. But I'm just hopeful, as I say, by mixing those three colours, it will do something. And now all I'm going to do is literally use the rest of this and hopefully give it a bit of a push. Like that one. Trying to do it from a height. And then hopefully, as I say, hopefully as the resin cures, it'll pull those different micas in and give us a kind of a crackle effect. And these are probably going to be the thickest coasters I've done yet, so it's going to be interesting. So just going to torch the tops, get rid of the bubbles, and hopefully let the resin do its own thing. At the minute, it doesn't look like it's doing much. And maybe I should have waited till they're fully cured. Dunno. But it should be interesting nonetheless to see if we get any results from doing it this way. So I'm just going to leave it now, let the resin do its magic, and then, as I say, come back in, well, tomorrow now, and demold, and hopefully that'll pull in and give us some colours. So I'll see you guys in the morning for demold. Morning guys, welcome back, and it's the next day and it's time for demold. So exciting times. And just looking at the back of these, there seems to be some kind of striation effect. So I'm really happy the way it's pulled in. I didn't actually need to put that alcoholic in the center, but do you know what? It looks quite cool. So I'm going to do the teddy first, which is just a spare for a keyring. Again, nice little keyring. I love this mold, to be honest. I wish I had one of these with like 4 or 5 in, so I could batch like 4 or 5 at a time. Might actually make a mold just for that. But yeah, really cool. And I'm guessing we're going to have a similar effect with the French Bulldog. We will find out. Again, just trying to demold it over that head. Once it releases, it should be pretty straightforward, he says. These molds are always an absolute pain to demold, so always fold it straight back the right way as well after you've demolded, guys, otherwise it will misshape your mold. But yeah, again, really cool. Really happy with him, just with almost that marbling effect. And look at the shine on him. So there we go, a reddy pinky French Bulldog, all in the same colour. So unusual for me. Normally I use these as drip molds and I get like 6 or 7 different layers, but he's turned out really cool. And now for the main piece. I'm going to start off with this one because I think this was the one that looked the worst to me is when I put the petals in. But look, we've got almost that sort of striation effect on the back, so that looks cool. I'm hoping we've got something similar on the front. Wow. Well, that's different. And do you know what? It does almost look like a poinsettia. We've got those fainter petals on the outskirts, and then where the alcohol ink touched it, I've got a nice deep red, which is what I was wanting. And then a really strange background. So that's the one that I think is going to be the worst out of the 4. And that was just because of the way it was piped and nothing else. Wow. Again, there's that one. And again, that's more of an even spread, so I do like that one. And it almost looks like a poinsettia, which is what I was going for. So very unique Christmas coasters. And actually I love the way that we've got the deeper red because of the alcohol ink. And it just shows you that your bloom will still work even if you colour it. Which is one of the main parts of this experiment. Let's say that background is so bizarre. Perhaps would have been better with just a dark background, but I quite like it, you know, it's very festive. It's got the Christmassy colours in it. And these coasters are for me, so that's all that matters really. And again with this one. And this one you can actually really see the striations in the gold in the background. So again, these would have looked great in just the gold. But I really like those. I think they've come out well. I think they almost look like a poinsettia, which is what I was going for, and they're very festive. So I hope you've liked them. Well, I hope you like them as well, guys. If you have, do me a favor, like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you on the next video.